Confined Disturbance, edited version. A cunning and admirable virus and the ignorant Cold War cut me off of my soul home, one who would never fully adopt me, but who gave me a long enough breath. The house where I am now and where I was born irritates me and haunts me with its malevolent ghosts. A museum of family loss and nostalgia, where the sound of the key in a lock is as ominous as the first time I remember being aware of it. A continent clinging to ancient and faded symbols, fearful and pretentious, at ease in a dull ideology, and never satisfied in spirit and flesh. Another one in a centrifugal and centripetal spiral of unsolvable contradictions, brutal speeds, horrors and graces, reflections of distant human wisdom imprisoned by algorithms and matrices that have a life of their own, that is not alive. Homesickness and homesickness. Unarmed and clumsy, breathing in comic anxiety, rather desperate in seeking reward, I walk away from the screen and the news war into the silent old woods, away from the self-confident expert idiots and their boisterous nonsense that does not impress and does not frighten the disgusting fascists who have begun to crawl out of the sewers all over the world. And this wood seems a refuge to the humanists, but they have never accepted to be humanists or to not be humanists. They exist in their own indifference. They are simply there, wild and ancient, never tamed, harsh with pilgrim monks and salt merchants, and never quite friendly with today's tourists and their silly missionary ecology. Through these hills and mountains, Hannibal descended in Italy, taking the Romans by surprise, and had the possibility, the move, to burn down Rome and obliterate the empire. And for some unclear reason, he did not. Woods of scary old fairy tales and witchcraft, hermits and martyrs, harsh, steep, deceptive. In another time there were islands, and home to prehistoric giant sharks and whales. His teeth are still found among the chestnut and the pine trees. I walk slowly, step by step, intuitively trying not to disturb, not to distort, not to abuse, to barely exist. And yet this humility could also be an annoying correct behavior, a masked presumption, or simply another reflex induced by self-deception in the face of the unsustainable reiteration of this cynicism machine. Because no matter how hard I try, I can't be here now. And I'm looking for more comfort than you can find, and more comfort than you can give. And it all happens as it seems to happen. Everything is redundant and dissociated, giving the impression of, presenting the appearance of. that discontinuity is painful and self-compliant, triggers the urge to carefully dissolve molecular bond by molecular bond in a vibratory network of deep and wet subatomic kisses. No distance between me and this fertile humus, the steam from the ground after the rain, the last crystalline drops of dew, and the leaves and the pungent smell of the remains of a decaying dead young deer nearby. A minute later, as I walk out of that blurry area, every inch of my body aches and trembles in a wave of collapsing pain. But it's not a major breakdown, a hijack of any cognitive function. Oh, that would be welcome. It's just another way to sink helplessly to the ground, a ground that I do not want to touch, because it has never allowed me to forget how to stand, because it prevents me from breaking its code and overwriting it with my new encrypted one. And I long for those woods of the mind again, where that same sky now so far away was so close, and seemed a guttural wonder devoid of intellect, a thing that lived outside of language in the oldest part of me, in tune with the remnant of that something we have decided to call the universe. I have nightmares of stolen DNA and RNA, living dead, enemies and warmongers, false democracy and a mighty dictatorship with much more similar projects that one pretend not to notice. My groin itches, and when I look, I see a tick on my left ball. He has stuck his head deep into the delicate epithelium and is drinking heavily from those hundreds of thin purple blood vessels. I look at it, and I know that this saliva carries disease, but I can't help but respect its banquet. And this is not just a situation. It is really here, now, wonderfully synchronized. And I guess just how stupid I look to a potential spectator there with my left bowl in one hand, pouring whiskey on the tick before trying to take it out. And then when I assume it is very drunk, and my left bowl is all red and swollen, and I can feel the heat of the alcohol poured over this highly symbolic and yet visually so mundane part of my body, I remove the tick with nail tweezers, with a slight twist in the movement. And it comes out with blood spilling all around. My new fresh blood mixed with what he sucked from me at its private party. I pulled it out with its head and legs, and then unwillingly I broke its head. I wish I hadn't. It could have sucked more blood from more balls. If I ever belong anywhere, my virus will possess life and be a deadly, erotic darkness, where there are relationships that are neither bodies nor thongs, nor a mixture of the two, incorporeal entities, nonsense languages, generic infinities, unconditional supplements, always in progress and suspended between nowhere and happening, a break in the world of what pretends to exist, emerging, witnessing, and untranslatable. You can't say what you want, but you are what you do. the sound of the water of this beautiful black river says what I think.